Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. And welcome to a very hot and tired girl, but I'm still so excited to be talking about books with you today. The saga of no air conditioning continues, so pardon me if you hear my fan in the background here and see my hair possibly blow up into my lipstick, but we're trying to keep it cool. It's not too hot right now. Thank you for everyone for your concern. We're so close to having the air be put in, and mostly I want to put my apartment back the way it goes. I have a bookshelf just sitting in the middle of my living room over here, and I have an entire bookshelf worth of books just on the floor in my bedroom, and just waiting on it to get delivered. But we're okay right now. Just a heat wave is coming, and now I'm into another weekend with no air, and yeah. Anyway, let's get into what's going on. So I first want to welcome M and thank her for becoming a fated friend, a member of the channel. If you'd like early access to videos, to help vote on video topics, and just a more priority comment reply and stuff like that, you can check out my channel memberships as well as my Patreon if you want to support the channel. So thank you so much to M for joining the support here. It means so much to me. Another way that you can help support the channel, which gets you some which gets something for you, is that the day that I'm filming this, I don't know what will be left when you see this tomorrow, but I just launched some new book sleeves in my Etsy shop. Yes, I'm going to be talking about these every week because as small businesses, we have to self-promote. But I am so excited about this launch, and I have some plans for upcoming ones that I'm so excited. This week we have some Yellowstone patterns, some fun designs here, some pretty horses. So there is the Yellowstone collection you can check out. And then I also have a Celestial collection. So there's this one with zodiac symbols and fun. This is like metallic gold on here, really pretty, as well as some sparkly planets in the indie size. And then I still have some from my Harry Potter collection left. I'm sure the Harry Potter collection, there will always be something Harry Potter and Disney in there. Right now I am sold out of my Beauty and the Beast designs, but I have a really fun relaunch of that coming in soon. So definitely check out my link down below for those. I try to keep these as affordable as possible. I'm mostly just looking to make a little bit of crafting money. I know that sounds funny, but I love making these. I just need to make it sustainable and not be putting all my money in fabrics and not getting anything back. So I also am working on a Kindle scribe pattern. It's just tough to get that one quite right. It should also fit a certain iPad sizes, but I'm not a super skilled seamstress and I'm not trying to be, so they definitely are a really basic sleeve, but I try to find really fun patterns for those. And if you like Fourth Wing, Throne of Glass, Dragons, Beauty and the Beast, you definitely want to, if not buy something today, definitely favorite my shop so you get updated the minute that I release new things. And yeah, let's dive into the reads from this week. I didn't get through a ton of books this week, so I'm actually going to do a bit of a mix of things here. I'm going to do my, of course, weekly reads that I got through, and then I'm going to do a bit of a update on what I'm currently reading because I'm in the middle of 3 books right now. And so I'm going to mix it with my normal as well as with Crystal's Bookish Life has been doing weekly reading updates, so we'll mix it in with both because I actually only got through 6 books this week, which there was a lot of stuff going on for me. I went home to visit my family for 3 days, and then when I got back I was busy sewing said project, so I was listening to an audiobook. But I won't go into details on this here, but there was some very heavy stuff that happened in the town of Fargo in this last week, and it just really affected my mood. I wanted to watch podcasts and, well, listen to podcasts, watch stuff, and I also was in the middle of 2 extremely long books that did take me a few days. Oh my gosh, there's a baby bunny outside. He's so cute. He's so cute. And the first one of these I was actually in the middle of at the end of last week's wrap up, and that was still a fan fiction that I was finishing up for the fan fiction readathon. So I finished At Last by DC Fitzpatrick. So this was the same fanfic author who did A Lovely Bribery, which was a Snape and Hermione that I absolutely adored. And this one is a Marianne Dashwood and Christopher Brandon set in modern times romance. So this one was very sexy, very sweet. It starts out with all the aching longing that you get in Sense and Sensibility. Brandon just absolutely broke my heart for the way he's longing for Marianne. And then when he meets her at a house party being held by his business associate, because in this fic, Marianne's sister, Eleanor, she works for Colonel Brandon's business partner, so technically works for him as well. And so she gets invited to a family like house party, and she brings her sisters and her mother, and that is where Colonel Brandon meets Marianne. And in this, he's 39 in this, and she is, I think, like 20, 21 in this. She's still in school, and he immediately is very taken with her, and he's working up the courage to asking her out. He's thinking, maybe I could persuade her to be courted by me. And then, of course, she meets this dude bro, John Willoughby, who sweeps her off her feet for about 2 or 3 weeks and just completely decimates her. And Brandon is kind of left to pick up the pieces and show her why he was a better chance as well. So the first like 30% of this fic is that, and it's very beautiful. And I feel like if you want to read Marianne and Brandon in the modern times, like the first 30% of this is right up your alley, okay? And then is very pining hero, very like angsty for him, very sweet. Then once things start to turn and Marianne accepts him, we have about 60% of this book that is mostly Colonel Brandon and Marianne smut, okay? And that is also very enjoyable. It's very enjoyable, but it is like in every chapter pretty much. And so while I enjoyed this and I loved watching their sexual relationship go from her being a virgin to like evolving for both of them, of course he has some experience, but it's also not like he's this gigolo or super sexually expressive man. They actually explore a lot of stuff together. Some things that he's done before, but a lot of things that him and Marianne bring out in each other. So I really loved that. So if watching a couple explore their sexual relationship is something you like, I think you could also like this on top of that. But yeah, a good portion of this was just sexy times between them, which sometimes that's what fics are, and sometimes they have a lot more going on. So it did end up dragging on for me for quite a bit. So I gave it 4 stars, even though the first 50% of the book, like that first 30%, and then like the first bit of them, you know, falling in love and all the sexy times, I would have given 5 stars. It went on forever. This was a 600 plus page fic, you know, it was 300 plus K, but it was delightful and I enjoyed myself. So I gave it 4 stars. It was a 4 on the spice scale. Yes, there was lots of spice. There was some role play. There was bondage. There was them kind of taking turns with being in charge. But it also wasn't like a 5 on my erotic because it wasn't dark stuff. Like they experimented a lot. There was lots of kinky stuff, but it was all so sweet, you know, in a good way. So if you enjoy the kink but without the darkness, this could also be a good one for you. So yeah, 4 stars, 4 on my spice scale. Then I read a couple of arcs. So I read Burned Dreams when I was home with my sister. This is going to be book 7 in the Perfectly Imperfect series by Neva Altaj. Very excited. Her releases were very rapid last year when she first started, and now she's spread them out a bit more, and I'm okay with that. But I do get through her books very quickly. Like I said, I was able to get through this while I was home with my family. And this one is very interesting. So this one is a bodyguard. Oops, why did I say this was an escort romance? Jenny messed up right there. This is a bodyguard romance, but she is married and she was in a forced marriage where she's being abused. So this does have cheating in it, but she's cheating on her abusive husband you hate him the whole time. There's no possibility of liking him. He forced her into marrying him because of her brother's debts. And she is a shell of a woman. And any time any of her bodyguards get too close to her, if they're too nice to her, if he sees, if her husband sees him close, he will brutally murder the man, sometimes in front of her. So she gets this new bodyguard, which is Alessandro. Her name is Ravenna, by the way. She gets this new bodyguard, and he is actually there on a revenge mission. So in the prologue, we see that he was one of the men who was also involved in that like secret government program that I think Sergei was also a part of. I can't remember which one, but we have another one who was one of these super soldiers, and they were kind of in this program, like they know each other through that. And his wife was murdered by this guy, burned down, and the house was burned down and she was killed. And so he has been spending his time slowly dismantling this guy's part of the mafia, and is now planning to kill this guy's wife. So he becomes a bodyguard for this woman. And so, yeah, he's planning to kill her. He is fully prepared to do this. So this is an assassin romance as well. I should have put that in my note. Let me add that into my notes as well. This is an assassin romance. That is what he is there for. He is there to tear down this guy's life and then murder his wife. But the thing is, he very quickly realizes that this woman is not a spoiled mafia wife. She is being forced to be here, and that she's abused. And so he's like, fuck, I didn't want to feel anything for this woman, but if he doesn't even love this woman, if she's just a possession, well, I'm not really going to get my revenge by killing her. All I'm going to do is hurt this woman. So I've said enough. I've blurbed enough. This one comes out very soon. I think it's the 27th. It's not my favorite in the series. I gave this one a 4. It's a 3 on the spice scale. It still was very compelling. Like I said, I was able to read it while I was with my family, which means it gripped me very well. But it also didn't have the same emotional connection I felt in some of the others. Now, Neva Altaj definitely does, her books are all very short, she definitely does kind of rush those connections usually anyway. But this one, because of our scenario where he's planning to kill her, she's married to someone else, she's trying to guard her heart, not get too close to him, we don't even really have connections really happening with him until about 50%, and then he's ready to switch everything up very quickly. So, to me, it's a bit weaker than some of her previous ones, but again, it was still very enjoyable, and it's one of my favorite like mafia series currently compared to some other series that have just gone so bonkers, and you maybe know a few that I'm talking about. So yeah, 4 stars, 3 on the spice scale. There is some hate sex in this. I can't remember what other like kinky, I think there is some throat necklaces in this too as part of the hate sex. And then yeah, trigger warnings for abusive marriage, cheating, not between the main characters, but she is cheating on her husband, I guess, if you want to call it that. And yeah, definitely some violence and against women for sure. Then Juliet was kind enough to send me an arc of Secrets at Sunset. This will be coming out July 31st. She's not really doing arcs for this, but she sent them out to some of her friends because this was also a part of the Book Boyfriend Collective, which is a Patreon that a bunch of artists were a part of, and they would monthly release these novellas that fit into different tropes. I never did like get into this because Juliet and like one other author were the only authors I was really interested in, and I mean, I have enough Patreons that I'm a part of already, plus having my own where like, end up giving away all the patron money I make to other people. But it's coming out of the Book Boyfriend Collective now. I think it had to stay in it for like a year. And so she's releasing this. So it's within the Beauville series. This one is 1.5. And this one is, the trope for this one was brother's best friend. So also I needed to ask Juliet because it'd been a long time since I'd read the Beauville book. But this one is, Hale is the business partner of, the hero in this one. The hero is Reed. They are contractors together, or they have like a building company, something like that. He is Betsy's brother. I believe Betsy's brother. Okay, he's either Betsy or Bennett's brother from the other series. I don't remember off the top of my head. I'm so sorry, but it's someone's friend that way. And then Emma who is one of the friends of Anna in this one, she is in the previous book too. So I did, but basically it takes place in Beauville. There wasn't like a ton of connections to that one, but like that's where the string connects. So anyway, so this one starts with a situation when Anna is a teen, and Reed kind of rescues her from a party that she went to that got in over her head. She ends up in a bad situation and he rescues her. And so she's kind of been in love with him since then. Now it's 7 years later and they're both mutually pining for each other. Now this is a novella, so it does move it pretty quickly, but it's nice because we see that history already. It does what I need novellas to do. It sets up all the history already. Anna, instead of doing what her parents want her to do for a job, because I think she's just graduated college. She's 22, 23. Rita is 5 years older than her, and she wants to start a dance studio, and so she ends up buying it and asking him to help her renovate it in exchange for her doing some cooking for him and helping like be a maid for him basically. So yeah, so it ends up being forced proximity, forbidden romance, pining between both of them, grumpy sunshine, and it was very sweet. So I gave this 5 stars. Number one, I would say my bias is clear. I love Juliet. I would be honest if I didn't like anything about this book, and there wasn't anything I didn't like. For me, it gets into the story at the right point. Like, we get that prologue, we know what it is, we get into the story, and so because these two have the history, I didn't feel like I was missing anything in the romance. So we're able to get into it, get to the point where there's sexy times, you know, get through this story quickly, and still be very satisfied. So yeah, for me, this was a 5-star novella. I don't give that very often. Again, part of that is my bias. When I have biases, I will share them. Juliet is a dear friend, and I would have to seriously dislike one of her books to be harsh to it. And I didn't. I had a great time. And so July 31st, if you're going to need a quickie, go for it. I think it's like 120 pages. Maybe you can use it for the romance readathon. So there you go. So yeah, 2.5 on the spice scale. All right, then where is it? I did my reread of Flawless. This was picked by a patron for a Patreon annotated book, and Flawless is literally the only Elsie Silver in Chestnut Springs that I hadn't annotated yet, because I annotated it for a Patreon monthly read, but I gave that book away then because someone won it. If I do it as a monthly read, it gets given away. So I re-annotated this one. And yeah, it was wonderful to revisit it. It was still a 5-star read. I love this series so much. In recent time, there has been a lot of like weaknesses of Elsie's that have been pointed out to me, so it's hard not to see them when you reread it. But for me, that doesn't lessen my enjoyment or take away what this series has been to me in the last year and where I think it's going. So I hope that Elsie kind of gets some of that magic back with the last book, with Beau's book, because I have very high hopes for that one. And I know I've given most of the books 6 stars, but upon like rereads, only Heartless is really still at a 6-star for me, because there are a lot of parts of both Powerless and Reckless that are repeats, and especially having to do with the sex scenes. And rereading this book now and seeing how it is, every one of these heroes has serious, like, why do they all have the same sexual preferences? I'm pointing this out. This is still a 5-star book. I'm not dissing any of the series. I just think that when you like reread some, and especially me, because I'm an emotional reader and I rate books based on that. My 6-star reads are literally that 6 stars how emotional that a book makes me. But when I reread a book and I know where stuff is going, I'm not as emotional. And sometimes I'm like, yeah, you wowed me with that, but the characters also acted out of character for that. So I just want to point that out. There are certain sexy things we like in books right now that I feel like authors put in just because they know that someone will put that in a review, someone will put that on one of those things that says what's in this book, not because the character would actually do it. And that's been pointed out more more articulately by other people than me, but because I've heard it said, now I'm looking for it, and I can't undo that. I can't undo that. And again, it doesn't undo the enjoyment from the first time reading a book, but now reading this one and knowing that it was the first one in the series, it is now very clear to me repeated things that happen where it's like, so you're really telling me all 4 of these men have sex the same way? And again, I think Cade stands out. I still stand by Daddy Cade is the best. But I think he's better than Theo. For a while I thought I loved Theo more, but that's just false. Even when Cade shows up in that one, I loved him more. Anyway, that got more morose than I meant. I still love Elsie Silver. I'm not here for the cancel Elsie Silver train. That's not what I'm looking to do. I just think that we get wowed by certain authors and the hype like gets away from it. And at the time when I read Flawless and Heartless, they matched the hype for me. And now I think that the author's hype is passing up where the hype of it hits. That's an interesting discussion to have. Can a book be worth the hype at the time, but then the hype get away from it even more? I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. Okay, moving along. Then... Oh, I wrote the wrong title in for this book. No wonder I was confused. So, let me write this in. Okay. So then I needed an audiobook to, as I said, work on my book sleeves. Now available. Yep, I'm going to keep doing it. We'll deal with it. I decided to continue the Once Upon a Scandal series by Liana De La Rosa. Yes, that's going to be a little bit shiny. We'll just have to deal with it. It's funny because I just made my August TBR and I put this one on there, but I really needed an audiobook, and so I dived into this one because I wanted to continue with this. This is a pretty like low steam but high angst historical romance series. I really, really loved it. This one actually begins with a one-night stand between Finley Viscount Firthwell, who is the twin brother of the heroine from the first one, which if you read the first one or you remember me talking about it, that heroine and her brother discover that they are bastard children. And if that secret ever gets out, they could be ruined. And because of the way things play out in that book, their father gets exiled. They like exile him. And so now the son, he's really stepping up and he's trying to be more aware of what's going on because his father kept him out of his business. Very purposely kept him out of his business. And so he didn't know what was going on and he wants to be awake to it. And in fact, he decides to run for parliament, but not in the districts that his father owns, and that might be easy for him to get because he wants to prove that he's not just like his father. But anyway, this begins with a one-night stand that he has with Charlotte. Now Charlotte is a widow. Her and her husband were very much in love, but he was a what was he? Anyway, she was in the West Indies with her husband and he dies, and her in-laws kick her out, leave her with nothing. And so she's forced to sell her wedding ring to get back to England, and she's been relying on kind of the charity of her family. And so her cousin offers her a job as a maid. Well, she gets there to this party, and it turns out it's not to be a maid, it's to be a courtesan. And she's like, I'm not ready to stoop to that. But she meets a guy in the garden when she's just kind of hanging out before she's going to leave, and they end up having a one-night stand. And she's certain he's going to ask her to be her mistress the next day, so she slips away. And then we skip ahead a year, and now she's gotten a job as a teacher. She's teaching French and decorum at this girls' school, which his sister is a patron of. And she actually got his sister's job because she was teaching school there, even though she didn't need it. Something behind me making noise. Anyway, and so he runs into her again when he goes to check in on this school that his sister is a patron of. His sister asks him to check in on it. And they meet again. And yeah, and it goes from there. I don't want to spoil anything. What was also unique about this, the heroine is Jewish, and her first husband had actually converted to become a Jew so that they could get married, because it's illegal to marry different religious, I don't want to say caste, that's the wrong thing, a different religious denomination than yourself, a different religion. Like, you can't marry Catholic, you can't marry a Jew. But her husband had converted to be a Jew. So she's still a Jew. She practices as much as she can. So that is another obstacle in it, because she doesn't want to convert and like give up her legacy. Like, she's the last of her family, basically, and it's very important to her. But it does put her in a lesser place in society. And then if he were to convert, he can no longer run for Parliament. So those are some obstacles for them. Very much enjoyed this. Can't wait for the next one. The next book in the series, which I now put that one to be the one I read in August, but I might end up reading that one before August as well. But either way, I'll read one of the books in that series in August because I won't get through all of them. But they are all on AnyPlay. They've had great diversity thus far. I really love that. The audiobook is very well done by the narrator. She does all the accents very well. And yeah, this was very angsty yet a satisfying story at the end. I really like how they handled their differences by the end. So I gave it 4 stars. And again, this is a lower steam. They do have a one-night stand, but we don't really see it. And then not many encounters in this one. But I felt like the angst and the romance was very good. These two really got to know each other, which needs to be believable for the stakes of their relationship. If one of them is going to convert, if they're going to go up against the things they need to go up against, you need to believe that their relationship would do it, and them just having hot sex is not going to do that. Also, this is a heroine who had love before. Her husband gave up a lot of his life to convert for her and be that for her, so she's not going to accept half measures either. So, definitely enjoyed that one. All right, next I read another arc. This one was Take to Heart by Ashley Mack. So I believe this will be a new series. I'm not sure if it's a standalone or a series. I believe that it's going to be a series based on how the couples are set up. But this is going to be a new series by Ashley Mack. She previously has put out quite a few novellas, as well as a series called I think it's called the Sense series, which I haven't read the last book in that series yet. But this one is coming out July 25th and was really unique. This was a super unique story. Again, to put this at the front, Ashley is a friend of mine. I was mentioned in the acknowledgments of this book, which is very special to me. Ashley, if you're seeing this, your friendship has been very important to me in the last couple of years. We don't get to talk as much as I want, but I appreciate you so, so much. And I'm so proud of you for doing what all of us romance readers dream of, and that is putting out romance books. So, sorry, want to put that at the front. So, again, I'm going to be honest about the faults and the gems about this story, but just know that I'm not going to rate one of my friends' books horribly, okay? Unless I really hated it, it's going to be rated pretty highly. So, just putting that out there. But again, I'll be honest about everything. Okay, getting to the point with this, okay, because I did really enjoy this. This one is a bodyguard romance. There's kidnapping, forced fake dating, and forced proximity, and also some kinky stuff in here. There is so much going on in this. So the setup for this book is that Perry, our heroine, she is basically kind of on her own in the world, except for her friend group. And she has some pretty, like, famous friends, particularly one woman is an heiress. And she's out at a club with her friend, and they're about to leave, and she had, like, went to go pee, and then she comes back, and she sees her friend in her sparkly dress, like, leaving the place. And so she's like, oh, no, I don't want my friend to leave me. So she follows after her. When she's in the club, she stumbles into this man, and they have this really intense moment together, and this is important because there's a picture that gets taken of them. And she ends up on the party bus, which she very quickly realizes that the woman in a sparkly dress that she followed was not her friend, but another heiress who is wearing something similar, and she sees this heiress making out with someone who is not her husband. So she has found out accidentally about something that should be a secret, because it's a secret that this heiress, whose name is Nim, has an open marriage with her husband. That's a secret. She was kind of pushed into this age gap, and they have a very amicable relationship. And so she has had a secret boyfriend for quite a while, and they're being a little bit reckless, but they get into their vehicle and they're making out, and she sees it. And it turns out the man that she bumped into is actually the head of security and a bodyguard for this heroine. And so, because he doesn't know who she is, thinks she might be a spy, thinks she might be a groupie who like jumped in, he puts a bag over her head and kidnaps her and brings her to their compound. And they do some research on her, and they're like, we don't understand who she is. She has connections to this one heiress who is like a business associate or partner, sometimes a rival with them. They have no idea what's going on. And they very seriously have to discuss what they're going to do with this girl. And they also find out that she had put in an application to become an accountant for their company. And so instead of trying to bribe her and make her be quiet, they're like, let's make her a part of the family because she doesn't have one. So they get her a job at this company, and Neo, the head of security, forces her to become his fake girlfriend and to live with him. And he basically puts her on lockdown whenever she's not at work. And there are photos taken of her and him at the club when they bumped into each other. So they just go ahead and pretend to be that they're dating. And that's why she was with these people. So that's the setup of this. But the thing is, for Perry, number one, does she find Neo extremely sexy and gets a little turned on by the fact she was kidnapped. She very much is like, I understand why you're kidnapped me. Like, I have a friend who is in the public eye and this could be like really bad. He's like, I won't tell anyone. And they're like, well, we don't know that. And so we need to keep you captive until we're sure. So thus begins her forced captivity, but she also now has a fake boyfriend who she thinks is really sexy. And who's watching her all the time, has cameras in the bathrooms and in the bedroom and everything. And also a dream job. So she really does get given everything and very quickly becomes a part of this found family. So there's also lots of good kinky stuff in here. There was some rough stuff with how the conflict played out in this one. I don't really know how else it could have went. So I understand that. I just think it was a little messy. This one, I feel like the conflict dragged off a little too long. And then there was a second kidnapping that happens at one point that I was a little bit like, okay, what are we doing with this? But overall, I really loved how unique this was. I haven't read anything with like forced fake dating really before. And as always, Ashley managed to write this pretty dark romance that just had me smiling a lot and was fun at the same time. Because these two are kind of both obsessed with each other. But she knows it's wrong for her to be obsessed with her kidnapper, and he knows it's wrong because he's in a lot of power over her, but he can't help himself at the same time. So I gave this 4.5 stars, rounded up to a 5, and it was a 4 on the spice scale, maybe even a bit more. It's about a 4. There was some breeding kink in this one. He sure loves to fill that girl up, for sure. There's some rough sex and some spanking. Ashley gives really good trigger warnings for these. So this one is captor captive. There is torture, physical assault, parental death, disgust, gambling addiction, and child abuse, all mentioned in this one. And then the last book that I finished was another fan fiction that I'd started earlier in the week. And this one was called Strictly Business by Bionically. And this was a Sirius Black and Hermione Granger fic. So, if you were on the live show for one of the fan fiction readathons, I'm going to be doing a fan fiction related vlog in August, if all goes well. And part of that has to do with some very interesting pairings. So while I was looking up these pairings for my vlog that I want to do, I wanted to look up some more Sirius and Hermione ones to add. And so I found this one. So this one is a marriage law one, and Hermione kind of talks Sirius into picking her because muggles need to pair with purebloods, and she wants to be in control of who gets picked. Also, by marrying a pureblood, she gets access to being a part of the wizard gamut, and Sirius doesn't want really anything to do with it. So basically they're going to enter a marriage of convenience, satisfy the marriage law, while she's going to work at taking the marriage law apart. So it's going to be a fake marriage because she's like, I don't plan for this marriage law to last long, but I still need the protection of the marriage law as well as the seat within the Wizengamot so that I can work on tearing it down. So that's the bargain that they strike. Forced proximity, as well as having Harry live in one of their houses with them, because Harry's living with his godfather off and on. So there's an added like forbiddenness where like I think Harry knows there's supposed to be a fake romance, but he can also tell that there's a lot of sexual tension between them. So this was a good one if you like Sirius and Hermione. I'd only read one other Sirius and Hermione, which is cool. I did not really love how the conflict played out and how rushed to the forgiveness we were at the end. We had a very slow, well, this isn't a super long fic, but it was a pretty slow burn to them giving into their feelings, and then they have sex, and then they like kind of break up again in their marriage, and they don't fix it until the very end. Like, Sirius definitely white fangs her and is like, I'm too old and broken and not good enough for you, and she's like, I'm not good enough because I'm too young and like not pure blood, which is stupid shit. Anyway, so I did give this one 3.5 stars, but it is a pretty quick read and it was fun, and it was a 2.5 on the spice scale. So those are all the books that I finished reading this week. Then I wanted to touch base on the books I'm in the middle of, as I said, to do an update. So I just started my reread of Any Duchess Will Do. This I am annotating for Lisa. So Lisa, I started this and I'm having so much fun. I haven't read a Tessa Dare in years, actually, because I read most of her backlist. I only haven't read kind of her first and second trilogy, the ones before Avon, just because I haven't heard super great things about them, and they're the only Tessa Dare books I have left. So I'm not saying never, but I just haven't. But I have read all of her other books, and I binged those, honestly, when I first got into, like, historical romance again, like, really a boost in it. I loved her stuff. So yeah, this one is our hero, Griff. His mother takes him to Spindle Cove and makes him pick a woman for him to turn into a duchess, for her to turn into a duchess, and he decides to get back at his mom for kidnapping him and taking him here, and he picks basically like a serving girl at this place, and the serving girl agrees because he offers her money to come with and be bad at being a duchess so that he can send her home and his mother will leave him alone. What I didn't realize is that this is only supposed to take place for a week. Like, she only agrees to go with for a week because of who she has waiting for her at home. So I have to revisit this to remember, but also because I'm annotating it. And I'm sure it will be a great time because I love Tessa Dare. Then I am almost completed with my reread of Aragon. I'm doing updates about my reread in my Discord, which is always linked down below. I don't do a ton of stuff in my Discord anymore. I tried to revamp it earlier this year, but I just have so many plates spinning, and I don't get a ton of interaction on my Discord anyway, so I haven't really tried. But I'm buddy reading this with Crystal, and we've been reading like 9 chapters a day, and so it was only going to take us a week. So we started this on Monday. So I only have today's chapters and tomorrow's left, and I am dying for this book. Rereading it, I have even more respect for this book than I did before. The last time I reread this book, I actually wrote in it when I got this collector's edition for, I think, the 15th anniversary or something like that. The 20th anniversary of this book is this year, which is absolutely nuts that it is the 20th anniversary of this. But I reread this book in 2019. Oh, maybe it won't show you. Yeah, I read this in 2019 and annotated it when I got the special collector's edition. So we're going to be rereading Eldest in August, and then in Brisinger in September, and Inheritance in October, and then Murtagh comes out in November. And I'm actually going to try to go to his tour because he's coming to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, which I'm like, what the fuck? That is only 3 hours away from me, 3.5. So me and my best friend are going to go to that because she also loves Aragon. So I'm loving rereading this. Like I said, I'm even more impressed that a 15, 16-year-old wrote this. It blows my mind that he did, because yes, it fits into so many fantasy like cliches and tropes, but he also does a good job with them. Like, those are tropes and classics, the hero's journey, because they're good. And like, he does such a good job with these. Like, amazing, amazing. And I'm just in love all over again. I'm listening to the audiobook. I know a couple of you are too. And Crystal and I are having the best discussions with it. So I'm at a really sad part right now, so it's tough, but I'm loving revisiting this, absolutely. And then the other one that I'm reading right now is Illicit Education by Jessalyn Jameson. This is for our ABCs of Love read along, which next Saturday will be our chat. And I'm hesitating to say this, I'm actually liking this one. This is an office romance, secret BDSM club. She secretly gets a job there and then discovers that her boss visits it, so it'll be pretty interesting. So yeah, join the live chat with me and Jackie next week to discuss that. So that is going to do us here for the weekly wrap up. I think this was week 29. I need to start writing it down again so I know before I go, but I think we're at week 29. Thank you so much for all of your support. As I said, definitely check out the Etsy shop if you're interested in purchasing some stuff there. And we'll see you in the next video. Thanks, friends. Bye.